all these things are designed to get your attention, to make you stay on the platforms for as long as you can so that you're looking at more adverts.
All right. Welcome to the Aussie Ambitions podcast. I've got a guest with us to take us through the topic of cyberpsychology. I'm fascinated by this. It's Leigh-Chantelle. Hi, Leigh-Chantelle. How are you?
Hello, Scott. Really good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. So and just to introduce you, we'd say that you're a digital wellness educator, as well as a long list of other things. And you've traveled down from Brisbane today?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Used to be at the Gold Coast when I was studying down here, but I'm up there now for my PhD.
Okay. Excellent. So yeah, basically you get a feel for our podcast and some of the themes that we're tackling. So Aussie ambitions and kind of what people are up to, just kind of at the moment. So maybe just a little intro to yourself. What are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, I'm very fascinated about cyberpsychology, what you mentioned before, and I'm in the middle of studies. So I'm doing my PhD at the moment, and it's in regards to behavioural change and technology acceptance about autonomous vehicles and blockchain technology. And I know that's a lot happening there. I know a lot of people might not even understand some of those things I've said, but it's just how technology is going in regards to transportation and the cybersecurity aspects that help that and help people's acceptance, and blockchain is one of those.
Okay. Well, just to, I guess, set the stage for Australia playing a part in all of this, are there conversations happening in Australia on this front, or are you the inception of that? Like, are you?
Well, I'm doing it like as a PhD, so I'm nowhere near an expert at the moment. I'm just starting the journey with that. There's some in Ipswich, so west of Brisbane. There's a trial at the moment with autonomous vehicles. So that's interesting. But yeah, it's very new. They say that autonomous vehicles, which means driverless, that they should be around in about 5 years. A lot of people are making those sort of vehicles now. It's just trying to get people to move and adapt with things that maybe they're a bit against.
Okay. All right.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the autonomous vehicles, I think a lot of people will, are certainly following that. Like, and making that connection with the cyberpsychology part of it, because what cyberpsychology, I'm thinking people on phones, maybe just a mental health state where people are, influenced by technology in a bad way.
Well, it's very broad. It's only a really, really new thing at the moment. It started in Ireland, and UK, US are doing some stuff. And I've actually noticed over the past 3 years since I've been studying, more places in Australia have added it as well. And my plan is to be a cyber psychology lecturer. So that's why I did my studies. And it's, if you just take the words, so there's like cyber, which is technology, and then you've got, or technology or anything that's related to devices, I guess you could say. And then you have the psychology aspect, which is why people act, why they feel, and why people, what's the other one, think certain ways. So if you add all those together, you can get anything. So a lot of people do a lot of e-bullying, e-health, things like that. There's a lot of research in those areas, and I was just really open-minded to see where it would go. That's what I'm interested in. What can I do? Who can I work with? Who are the people that I really like teamwork and learning from other disciplines. So that's sort of where I was. And last year I looked at how humanoid social robots interact with preschoolers. Is there a difference between humans versus the robots? So that was what I did last year. And then this year I'm doing the autonomous vehicles and the blockchain stuff.
Very cool. Okay, so that does sort of tick one box that I was curious about. Was, so there's a human component and then there's the technology, and obviously humans are hardwired in a certain sense, like humans have developed over time, but technology is moving at a much quicker pace, and it's kind of like the effects of one on the other.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, humans are in charge of the technology, right?
Well,
Still?
I would disagree with you on that, to be honest, because, we like to think we are. We like to think we know how to behave and what to do. But, you've got education about why smoking's bad for you, why we need to be doing more exercise, why we shouldn't be watching as much TV as we are, why, all that sort of stuff. That doesn't mean people don't still do those things. So there's a lot of people, and in particular in the space I'm interested in, like the technology space, psychology space, a lot of us know, okay, these things have been designed specifically to work with your psychology and to use your psychology against you. So, okay, wow, I really like that people like me, or I really want people to be my friend. So what do I need to do to get people to be my friend? Or what do I need to say? What are the things that I need to be and put out to the world that maybe isn't even really me, but that works. That's what helps me get followers. So there's all these things that are changing the way as a society we're actually interacting with people now. You go out to lunch, people are on their phone all the time. Most people, like I've got a lot of my friends are introverts, actually. I'm quite an extrovert. And I love chatting on the phone. And a few of them will say, you're the only person I speak to on the phone because they're used to texting and things like that. They don't like being in the moment where they have to think on their feet and maybe say stuff they might be embarrassed by. So if you think about text, if you think about social media, generally speaking, you have control over what goes out. You might say something silly every now and then, or maybe when you're drunk or you're a bit angry or something like that. But generally, if you pause and you consider your actions, you may or may not do what you wanted to originally.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a vast topic, right?
Yeah.
You obviously there's lots of room for thesis and PhD work and so on. Like, is there like a big movement where you can, is it expanding? Are a lot of people jumping into this, or is it?
Well, definitely the digital wellness area. So I've been interested in that for quite a while. So my other education I've done is naturopathy, Western herbals and stuff like that. So I've always been interested in the natural and the balance, I guess, like equilibrium's probably my favorite word. So how we balance everything in our life. You have to have good food, which for me would be vegan food and a vegan mentality and lifestyle and stuff like that. Plus, exercise, going outside into nature. At the Gold Coast, for example, I love ocean swims. I just did this morning. Outside beach walks. There's so many people who live here and don't go to the beach. That's a judgment.
That's so true.
Yeah, but there is, and it's so beautiful here, and but there's life. Life gets in the way, work gets in the way, and you have to be making these decisions to actually do these things and to follow through. Yeah.
That's a good point. I might just press on that a minute. So why do you think that is? So I completely agree with that, and I can be included in that. Sometimes I'm thinking, well, you got things that you want to do, and it could be something fun or a project or whatever, but you might be missing out on some of those luxuries that are around you. So have you picked on one thing? Is it just that, like you said, life gets in the way? Is it like family stuff or work stuff?
I think it's hard. I've actually realized a lot since studying psychology and just certain friends that I have and a lot of people that I meet. There's a lot of mental health issues out there at the moment. And when you have, anxiety, depression, things like that, you can't actually get over that. Like your brain or your body's using a lot of energy just to even get out of bed sometimes. So for people that come from that sort of perspective, that's really hard to get them to do anything, and anything positive in particular, because they literally can't do anything. And then for me, it's like, because I don't have those mental health problems, and from a privileged position, that I'm like, okay, well, you just need to go outside. You just need to do exercise. So to me, it's obvious because I don't have those problems. So that's sometimes hard to have those conversations with people because you want to help them. You've got the ideas and the reasons and the how to help them. But that's a big issue, especially with COVID related stuff, especially because we're used to staying inside, maybe not as much in Queensland because we didn't have the border closure or the lockdown as much as other people did. But for other people that are used to being inside, have been inside for quite a few months or, of the year. It's a year now, I think, since COVID happened. So you've got that mentality when people are used to being inside and they're used to just, staying with themselves and with their thoughts. So it's very hard. And I personally think you have to make conscious decisions and mindful decisions to do whatever. So say, for example, I've just started my PhD recently, and I'm in my 4th week, and I like doing swimming. I like doing my yoga and Pilates, and because I'm trying to get into a routine, it's just started. That's all out the window at the moment. I've been doing my yoga and some Pilates, but I haven't done much swimming for a while. Last week I did a bit, and today I have. But I need to get into a routine so that I'm making sure that I do those things, because routines are very important, and in particular, healthy, positive routines. So, it's just like every Wednesday, go to the ocean, have a swim, Mondays, Fridays at the pool, yoga before, Pilates before, something like that. So it's just breaking those things up and breaking up the times, in particular, you're sitting down and you're working, and just seeing more friends. That's also helpful. Just trying to positive things into your life. And you can't do all of it at once. Just pick one thing, do that well, move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I can see how embedded in the psychology of it is. And I'm just trying to reiterate some of the things you were highlighting. So is it about like tuning into something that's good for you? Because I could see there being a lot of like short-term distractions, like, oh, I'm just going to sit down and Netflix for a bit. And that might be sort of a half an hour dead time, which you just sort of sit back and digest something, but perhaps it's not good for you, versus maybe something that stimulates something physiologically, maybe like you're going for a walk at the beach. Guaranteed there's something that's happening with your circulation and cardiovascular and maybe nervous system. Yep. Dopamine and all this kind of stuff. Yep. Maybe it's and then there's the digital. So there's probably the digital high. That's where I'm going with this. It might be on your phone, your Facebook, you watch TikTok for a bit, and you kind of feel like, oh yeah, that was great, entertaining. Yeah. But it's not a good, maybe there's an addictive component to it, do you get into that kind of stuff where it's like the effects on the body or the mind? Yeah,
definitely. I'm about to launch a new website, and I have a new model called Digital Equilibrium. So that's a concept I've created about like lifelong healthy digital habits to make you thrive online and beyond. And it's based on 6 different aspects. And so all of those things need to be in balance. And it's like digital literacy. So you need to know how people are using your psychology against you and what to maybe do to stop it. Worthwhile communication. What are you doing when you're online? Is it passive or active? I think this is a good thing that people need to focus on with the internet and the social media and the digital stuff that they do. Are you going on there just because you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired? So think about that next time you're online and pause, consider, decide. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? If you're doing things, and that can be anything, that can be drinking, that can be doing drugs, promiscuous sex, like anything, including social media, if you're doing it from a non-mindful perspective, it's not going to be good. So if you're just scrolling there on Twitter, or because I like Twitter, or you like your TikTok, so it's what am I doing here? If you're going on, like say for example, I go on, just check what's happening in the tech world, check what's happening in the AFL, watch some train videos or some cat videos, and then that's it. Get off. But if you're there, 2 hours go by, that's probably a bit of an issue. So there'd be that one. And then it's, having meaningful interactions and beneficial relationships. So instead of just liking random people you think's hot, their posts, like have a conversation. I really liked what you said the other day with that. Start a conversation with people, like develop relationships. And also remember that if you have friendships, you need to be putting more effort into those things than just liking someone's profile or liking what they share. And you need like healthy boundaries and self-care. So for example, you're talking about the Netflix stuff. I watch TV for 2 hours a night, max 2 hours a night, just to chill out. And that is mostly, we were talking before about Big Brother Canada, Love Island, South Africa. They're my faves at the moment. And, lots of people judge me all the time about liking reality TV shows, but I love it because I can get invested in someone's life for 3 months. And, I don't have to think about it because I'm reading like heavy stuff about blockchain at the moment. It's heavy stuff. So the last thing I want to do is to be learning about something, 2 hours before I go to bed or something. So if you have those sort of boundaries and self-care, that really helps. And then productivity is also essential. So how are you being productive when you go online or when you're, so the productivity thing with me watching the TV, there's no productivity whatsoever, but I'm chilling out, I'm resting before I go to bed. But if you're using your social media as a tool, that's being productive. Letting it use you is another thing. And there's a whole discussion about whether or not it's actually a tool anymore, which is also an issue. And then the last bit of my digital equilibrium model is mindful and conscious use. So if you combine those sort of things and you think about more active rather than passive use and mindful and conscious use. So why am I here at the moment? Why am I on TikTok? Because a lot of people go on, they just want to message their friend or something, and then they're there 10 minutes. Oh, what was that thing I had to do again? I totally forgot it, because you just get caught up in the whole thing. And remember, the digital literacy aspect of the model is all these things are designed to get your attention, to make you stay on the platforms for as long as you can, so that you're looking at more adverts, so that Facebook or Google or Netflix are getting more advertising dollars every time you do that. So to me, if you know that stops me do certain behaviors. But I know from my behavioral change research and stuff that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all once someone knows something. And from my background in like animal rights and veganism and environmentalism and feminist stuff, it doesn't matter if someone knows it. There's all these other reasons why people don't change behaviors.
Yeah, just hearing you describe all of that, I'm just constantly picturing, like, I'm a visual person, so I like to just think of like spheres of influence and like where are the forces coming from? You got these big corporate giants and developing the technology, and then you've got like the 99% of everyone else who's just using the technology a bit blindly. And then you've got educators and basically innovators like yourself that are trying, that you can see what's coming, and you're putting things in place from an awareness standpoint and so on. And is that a daunting task to try to, I guess, do you feel like it's one versus the other? Like, you got technology wave coming at you, and it's maybe just driven by ad dollars and views, and these are profitable companies, and then you've got the people that are enjoying it, but it's probably not good for you. So, is there a happy world where everyone gets along?
Yeah, I'm a positive person. I like to think that most people are good and the world is good. So I just add that to one of my biases. But yes, so I do think you can get balance, but you have to take a lot more initiative and you have to take more ownership of things than I think most people can do or want to do. So that would be the other side of the coin. So, for example, with the digital space and the technology space, there's a few companies that have all the control, and if originally we said no, you have to play by these rules, we would have been in a different space. So, but because now where we are and they have control and they can influence so many things, we don't have as much say to change those things. And there's a lot of stuff that's been going on to try and change procedures, in particular in the States, with getting things what are they called? like put into law, like policies and stuff like that. But it's very hard when a lot of the people who are in, public office are getting money from these people. Like the amount of money the tech giants have spent on political influence over the past 4 or so years is full on. So that sort of thing happening and relying on tech and relying on lawmaker, I think it would be great if that could happen, but I just don't think we're there, and I think that's a big challenge, whereas I think personally we can do a lot that would help us where we're at. But yeah, I do know that there's a lot of people who just don't would not take the initiative and wouldn't even think that's a thing they need to do. And I think, that's probably where I come from, where by making mindful decisions and conscious choices and understanding what's happening with the world, you can make better decisions. And I'm not saying, you tell someone this and they'll become vegan, or you tell someone this and they're going to sign off of Facebook and never use Facebook again, because I just know that doesn't happen. But I think it's long-term education. I also think leading by example is very important too. So if people see me over 20-something years, I've been vegan, I do this, they're like, cool, that's easy, I can do that. And it's more acceptable in the mainstream now. So more people are becoming, I wouldn't say vegan, but I'd say plant-based, which is more a food perspective rather than the ethical elements that go along with veganism. So you can see with the technology space as well that you've got people, like a few of us have been saying this for years, like these are things you need to look at, don't do this or do this more. And I think a lot more people are aware of those things now. And there's a lot of good people that are doing stuff like that. Was the Social Dilemma on Netflix, which was really good. The documentary, if you haven't seen that, check that out. And the humane tech group are really good, like with Tristan Harris. So they do some really cool Center for Humane Technology, they're called, and they do some really good outreach, and in particular working with those big tech companies. And then you've got like the digital wellness space, the Digital Wellness Institute, who train people, and I just did their accredited course over my break. So there's more people that care about this stuff. And this is, because I'm like come from a speaking consulting background. So you go into schools, you go into businesses, you go into these places and you say, what are you doing? What's your staff doing? What are the kids doing? And how can we make it better and achievable, and stuff that people want to do, for one, will feel that they're able to do and can see steps to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, I think I just looking for the answer in what I was looking for in the forces, and you mentioned like the control, and it's really the individual can take control, basically, and that's so that empowered feeling. So and it doesn't just limit to just technology, like you said. There's health, and then there's where you are in your life, and just all those things. So I guess that's probably the takeaway for me anyway, which is just be aware and be mindful, and then navigate from there. You can sit down and watch TV. It's fine. You don't need to switch off and be extreme, but as long as just try to be one step ahead, and don't try not to slip into the jet stream of all that neuro-linguistic programming. It's quite powerful. Yeah, you may not be fully aware. So I think it's fun to question things in life in general.
Oh, definitely.
So,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, you can't go wrong with questioning things that are in front of you. What you see may not be what it appears.
Yeah. And there's a reason, yeah.
So that's a bit of fun. Do you enjoy your role? Is it the balance? You got educational, and doing a PhD is full on. So is it a stressful, long, draining experience, or is it stimulating, and because you're always just learning and expanding horizons?
Yeah, well, I do enjoy learning stuff, so that is very exciting, and I am very passionate about cyberpsychology, so that does help me get through the harder times, maybe. And I do like researching, I do like writing, and I like working with people. And say, for example, one of my supervisors is from transport area, and one of my other supervisors from cybersecurity. So, the three of us together make a really good team. So the PhD will probably be a bit more stressful than the other stuff. The other stuff, I know it, in, pretty much back to front because I've been interested in it for a while. I'm just, getting out there more in the space because I had a bit of time over the break just when I finished my honours. So yeah, getting more into that space and just educating people. And it is hard because I've come from the vegan and environmental perspective for 2+ decades. So it's very, very hard, but also a thing that I was just talking to someone about it yesterday, actually. I think like a Buddhist perspective of non-attachment is really essential and just in life. So I think, if you do something with expecting a particular outcome, then that's not really that great a headspace to be in. So if you go in, so for me, I'm just like, I know this stuff. I'm very good at communicating it in a way that people can understand. And that's what I can do. So that's my life, just, trying to change the world, And so I use all those skills to make those sort of things happen. And it's, focusing on educating people. So I know this stuff and I want to transfer that knowledge to someone else. And that's, I guess, all I'm at the moment, and to empower people to believe that they have the power to change things. So those things, and that's all you can do. You have to let it lie, and you have to, guide people or find people when they find you, and just let go of anything else. And I think that really helps. So yeah, I'm not really stressed about it or too overwhelmed with the digital wellness and the digital equilibrium space, because I think it happens when it happens. And, the vegan stuff took 20 years really for it to become more mainstream. And that's the thing. Like, I find myself every 10 years, there's another project I want to really get out to the world. And this is my latest one, to be honest. So yeah, there'll probably be a new thing in 10 years.
Well, that's where it gets interesting, because I was getting a sense this is such a rich space, but then you've come from origins in different areas. You've got marketing experience. You've got quite a passionate and basically living the life of a vegan, and maybe it's, I don't know if it's advocacy, but it's just living it and maybe sharing with people the that what it's all about, the education. So maybe we can just back way up for the listeners and just kind of, because a lot of people will be fascinated, where is she from and how did this all come to be? So maybe just we could walk way back. You're born and raised in Australia?
Yeah, so I was made in Africa and born in Fremantle in Western Australia. And then we used to live on Papua New Guinea on a place called Bougainville Island, which is part of the Solomon Islands. So I lived there for 10 years of my life, first 10 years. And then we came to Australia, so to Brisbane after that. And been at the Gold Coast. I used to do a lot of vegan activism and speaking and travel. So I used to travel a lot, and I used to do a lot of house sits. And so I was doing that for 8 years, and then doing all my marketing, social media marketing, put on a lot of events, put on a lot of vegan things, ran some not-for-profits, and it was totally immersed in the marketing world for 12 years or something, I think it was. And and then I think that's sort of where I came to the digital wellness space, to be honest, because when you see behind the curtain of how things run, or how the algorithms work, or how we can't even work out how some of the algorithms work, or what is effective and what's not, that's very fascinating. Like you said about asking questions or being curious is really essential. So I think that's what led me to the wellness thing, where you're the tech has so much control. How can we live with that? What can we do? Where's the balance for that? So that sort of took me into the digital wellness space, and in particular cyberpsychology. And there was a lot of people I followed on Twitter and read their books, who I was I wonder what they've done. So Sherry Turkle, Jamie Bartlett in particular, who wrote really awesome books, and they did psychology as their background. So I'm maybe, because I always wanted to be a psychologist. Years ago, I was interested in psychoanalysis, and I feel that I've just come a bit full circle. And decided to study psychology because I wanted to do cyberpsychology in particular. It was a new field, nothing really in Australia at that time. And yeah, I've just sort of, that's what I want to do. That's the goal. I'm just riding the wave, really. So just sort of seeing where it's taking me. Yeah.
You briefly touched on, the vegan lifestyle and how that was a key focus at a point. It still is probably. But if I could just capture, I would consider if someone says, "Oh, I'm a vegan," and first of all, I feel like I'm open to learning a lot more about that. So I think I'd be curious to see if that's actually the case for someone that's living a lifestyle, and then you constantly have to educate people, or just you have to adapt to the rest of the world that's maybe not 100% vegan, right?
Yeah.
But the other one is, it sounds like you took it a step further, which was became not an influencer in the sense, but you were like not afraid to go out and put yourself on the stage to speak about it. Is that fair to say?
Definitely.
And was that a business environment as well, where you're almost like consulting to educate people in the vegan world, or was it's still personal?
It actually came because I did a lot of music and performance, so I was going to be a rock star at one stage. So I think that helped with that, to be honest. So because I'd been used to being on stage, a lot of people asked me to speak in the vegan world. And then I put on Brisbane's first all-vegan environmental festival 11 years ago. It was called Green Earth Festival at the City Botanic Gardens. And that had like 3,000 to 4,000 people based on really no budget, asking a heap of favors and calling in favors from years. And then because of that marketing I did, that brought me into the marketing world. So then people ask me, "Oh, can you help me out with my business, or can you do this?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll give you a pitch. Here's how much, here's what I can do. Here's how much I'll charge." And I just got clients like that. So then that happened. So then I was doing it for a long time with my music, with the vegan stuff, promotion and marketing for, free. And then I actually made a living from that. So yeah, that was interesting. And so that's sort of where it's come. So I've been doing the consulting and the speaking in the marketing world for a while, and the vegan world for a longer. And now it's just more into the digital wellness sort of space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating to me, the sequence of events. And a lot of people, again, this is just general advice for people out there. I think there's certain common things that people do. They're born and they're raised. They go through, I guess, a high school, and they graduate, or they perhaps get close to graduating. Maybe don't finish. It might be university. And then there's sort of the job market. And did you ever get into classically like the job market, or were you always sort of just your interests were clear to you, and then you just took what was in front of you as an opportunity and went from there?
I always worked in music retail. So when I was at what was it? We had to do work experience. That's it, work experience at school. I worked at the record market. And then I worked in Chandler's, a place that had a music section in it. And then I worked at JB Hi-Fi. So I've been involved in music retail for quite a while. And that was just on the side of doing all my other stuff. So the vegan stuff, the music stuff, that never really made money. So I had to make some money in other ways. So I did the retail stuff, but I've always been very entrepreneurial. So I always had hustles, side hustles. So, I had eBay stores, I had Amazon stores. When I was at uni, I flipped books, on an Amazon store, textbooks, and I used to buy secondhand clothes and write my lyrics on them and sell them, and just like anything like that. And getting more into the space of like passive income is very interesting, and I have quite a few friends who are all quite interested in the passive income streams and stuff like that. But it's also, for me, I'm all about cost benefit analysis. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do that you think is going to make you money. Well, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into, like, say there was something, can't remember what it was it maybe screens, this is a few years ago, that you could create sayings or image, and they'd screen or they'd put it on a shirt, and you could sell that, and you'd make a bit of income like that.
Okay.
And I remember a friend and I put in a lot of time doing all these designs and everything, and nothing really came from it. And I'm like, okay, so you've put all this energy into that, and it's not worth it. So there's other ways that you could do that sort of stuff. So yeah, and I think it's very interesting. There's all these opportunities where you can make little amounts of money, but yeah, you just have to work out what's really beneficial and if your time and energy is worth it, which in a lot of cases it's not. So, but that's trial and error. And I've learned, because I'm here where I am because of all the stuff that I've learned or the mistakes I've made and things like that. So, I think if you're in the position where, you're able to try all these different things, you definitely should.
That's cool. It's funny you looped back and covered it there at the end there, because I'm thinking, I'm completely cost benefit as well, but I try to make not an excuse, but I like justifying things and taking an alternative perspective and say, like, maybe it isn't black and white. Maybe over a 20-year timeline, I absolutely needed to fail at that one thing, and I learned from it. Yeah. And then you went back and did something. So but obviously you need to gain income and keep things viable. So in the short term, but I think it's fun as long as you don't lose heart or hope. Yeah. And get beat down by something. Yeah. I think that's where it really people can get stuck and need a bit of influence. And
I think it's like with the music stuff as well. Like I honestly thought I was going to be a rock star. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to be the next Madonna or whoever. And it's weird to think back to that person who I was. And I've got a heap of friends who are touring musicians. Well, as much as you can with COVID, but they, other than the top sort of 1 or 10% of people, the majority of musicians don't make money. You can make some, if you do covers or corporate sort of gigs, that's some really good money you can make. A lot of like real musicians wouldn't do that sort of stuff or wouldn't in the past. So I didn't want to be a musician like a lot of my friends who was doing part-time casual jobs just to be able to pay for me to go on tour, a few times a year. And I saw that life and I'm like, I don't want that life. So it was like, and it's that conversation you sort of have, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? And I've had that thought and those conversations and those reflections many, many times over my life. So it's like, I'm not willing to put in this work because there's no real outcome. And it doesn't matter if you're good or you're bad or whatever. It's just like random. It's throw of the dice sometimes with music. And, you're not making, or don't even start me on Spotify and all the way people are not getting paid at the moment, and people just think it's great to have all, but you can discover all this music. You can't necessarily discover any music. There's algorithms that are sending you to particular things based on things they think you're going to like, because everyone's just so predictable now. You're getting stuff that you're going to like. But people love it. People think it's great. Whereas there's a company called Bandcamp that I love because, it's 50% of the money goes to the artist straight away. That's it. Whatever is sold. And there's a lot of independent artists, and it's not like, say, for example, SoundCloud was a bit like rap from SoundCloud. Right. It's any sort of music whatsoever. So, yeah, that to me, that's very interesting where music's going and, bringing that back to some of my other interests in the technology, like the blockchain stuff. And if you've heard about the non-fungible tokens at the moment, NFT. So that's trying to get people to have more ownership of their creations. Say, for example, there's a heap of people that design like digital art. That's the big thing at the moment. And Kings of Leon, they're going to be the first band who's released an album using that blockchain technology. And it's just all about something. Some people say stuff is like a bit random. It's like a mathematical equation that you're paying money for that exists online that's not actually physical, which is, I think it's quite an easy way of explaining it. But yeah, the blockchain is just a way of storing data that doesn't need to have one, like a hierarchical power structure involved with it.
But it's a way of verifying authenticity.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of things you can use it for, and the way that like the blockchain NFTs and like Ethereum, which is one of the types of transactions, is like trying to say, yes, this exists, this person has bought it, this person has sold it, and this is what it is. So yeah, it's very complicated. It's very hard to explain blockchain, and in particular, say like, I'm interested in the autonomous vehicle stuff. So that would be everything has to be connected, and that has to be stored somewhere. And there's things like smart contracts that are making sure that, you understand what's happening and to whom and things like that. And there's just so many things blockchain can do. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting space at the moment to see where it goes.
I mean, that's certainly a topic that we'd like to hear more about. And I mean, I've sat in on a few things. Brisbane seems to be pretty active with blockchain educational environments, and I think there's even local companies like, cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. I still haven't quite got my head around, where cryptocurrency starts and where blockchain starts and all that.
The cryptocurrency is more like, say, the money just focus, and most of that is just like a basic aspect of it. So the to and the from and what's been exchanged. So that's like the basic things that can be stored in blockchain, but there's a lot of other stuff that can be added outside of cryptocurrency. So a lot of people just understand the cryptocurrency aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and just to be worthwhile mentioning, one of our earliest guests on the podcast was Paradise Gin. They actually were innovating in the space that their product, so it's a bottle of gin, but the label and the to verify the authenticity, it was blockchain integrated. So basically, you could track back the purchase and it's and
like you scan.
Yeah. Yep. And there's basically follow on in things like the meat industry. So, but looking at where the meat origins are, because apparently it's not always so clear, and all those things. So it's just about maintaining the authenticity and maybe the value as well. So that,
I think that will be a lot more brands will do that going forward, to be honest, because in particular, like say artisan products, which is maybe I don't know that product, but I can imagine the gin would be a bit of more an artisan sort of type project. And you scan to see where. Girly, I don't even know what gin's made from. What's it made from?
I mean, it's just, I think it's, I'll refer everyone back to the episode so they can learn more about it. But yeah, it's a local distillery. They've got some like cockatoo plum and some infusions and local flavors. But yeah, there's the spirit part of it, and then it's flavored. But it's really the authenticity of it being produced here and a Gold Coast or Surfers Paradise brand.
And you could track the plums, like, you could add, I had a kumquat gin recently too. So that's like an indigenous fruit. And you can track where's that indigenous fruit come from. Oh, that area of people, or that tribe of people, or that, business, they created that. So there's that aspect. These people got paid properly. That's another aspect that I think will gain more traction in years to come, making sure, a lot of the China products, Pakistan, Indian stuff is slave labor still. So I think there'll be a lot more of this was made in better conditions for people who are getting paid well so their family can do this or they can live a proper life. And like the miles that the food's gone as well. And I think definitely the meat and dairy industry need to get on top of a lot of the issues that they have with, hurting animals and not looking after them properly. And so, they probably could try that for a while, see how they go.
That's good. Okay, yeah, which is we're certainly pulling in lots of aspps, and they are related. I don't want to let the rock star thing go because I'm just like. That got dropped on us. Was there
a long time ago, Scott.
No, that's all right. Vocals, guitar.
Yeah, vocals. Yeah, so folk pop. That was my sort of thing, and just all about heartbreak. It was just very, sad stuff. Oh, wow. But so that was very hard to perform live. I got over that quite a bit. But yeah, and I have ideas of getting back into the creating music and stuff, but it's just not a priority because my study has been, and and maybe do some DJing. I've had some DJing tutoring. So there's a few things. I try to keep the creative aspects there as well, because you need, the balance. But yeah, it's more for me, it's like a bit more poetry and lettering and calligraphy. I do that a bit more nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great example that even with your very clear central mission, there's these things that are in the periphery that it make, it's your interests. And it seems to me like you haven't abandoned them, or they're there and they bring you pleasure, and you can jump in and out.
Exactly.
And you never know what the future holds.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a future oriented type of person, or?
Yes, very much all about goal setting, and this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'm doing this week, this month, this year. So and that's what I suggest for a lot of people too, because I feel a lot of people get overwhelmed with whatever's happening, whether it's like study or business stuff, or just life, friends, family, whatever. But yeah, you just break it. I just think you break it down. So I'm very good at, here's the whole and here's how to break everything down. So yeah, and then it's like, okay, well, working back from stuff. So say, for example, I need to put my proposal in for my PhD this date. And I normally would like at least a week to be able to update it based on my supervisor's feedback. So then they need maybe 2 weeks to a month to read it. So then I need to make sure I've got it to them about a month before I want it to be due. So then what do I have to do to get to that stage? So at the moment, I'm just reading a heap of stuff. And what's, where do you go? What's the bit that's most essential? What are the things that are lacking in the research at the moment? And that's where you focus. And then I've just got so many ideas at the moment because it's very new. So I've just been told you need to get one thing. So instead of all this, I need to just focus on one thing. So that's when it gets hard, but that's all about knowing a topic. And this is only a new area, so can't expect to know everything in 2 or 3 weeks of reading. So yeah, it's just being, realistic. I'm still putting in a heap of time and efforts, and yeah, interesting.
One thing I find, I guess, fascinating about people that have a certain specialty is that how do they use that specialty across their life? So I'm thinking of psychology, and you could probably read social situations in a different way than others could. You're just looking for cues in lots of different ways. But do you ever use the psychological theory, things that the knowledge you have, to use it on yourself to sort of say, look, okay, I know where I'm at in my mental journey and in my method and so on. Yeah. Are you the first customer in the scenario?
Yes, I'm very good at reflection. I'm very good at taking a step back and seeing things from afar. And I'm not the best with emotional stuff, so I can see things from a logical perspective quite easily. So I'm like, okay, well, that's why you're doing that. That's how come that's happened. You need to do this to change. Because it's pretty it's simple. To me, it's like this, cool. Yep, tick. Done. Move on. Okay. For other people, not as easy. And there's this thing called the locus of control, which is very interesting. Do you know about that?
Yes, I do. I'm trying to think where that came from. I did a lot of behavioral, motivational stuff.
Cool.
But from a business context, what drives people?
Yeah.
And locus of control is part of lots of theories, but let's hear more.
Well, it's interesting because it's whether or not you believe that you have control over yourself or the world or whatever, or you don't. So I believe that I can control a lot of stuff. I believe if I put in the work that this will change. I believe that I can change the world. I believe that I can make relationships better. I believe that I can change my habits and stuff like that I'll get good outcomes. I've noticed the majority of people are not like that. So that's a hard thing when you're trying to get someone to change a behavior or to maybe understand things a bit more, and especially what we talked about the mental health stuff before. If you don't believe that you can change something or you have control over something, you're not going to bother. That's why people stay at jobs they hate for years, stay in marriages or relationships that everyone else is like, holy shit, that's a really shitty relationship. Just keep doing things because they know that, they understand that. Everything else is way more scary. And
I think that circles back exactly right. Even if it's the technology, all the players out there, this locus of control, like you put yourself, you have control. Well, I guess you can evaluate who has control and try to take it take it over
Yep.
so that you do have control. And the theory I was thinking of was equity theory, I think. I'll have to look that up. But it's essentially that, is that you can control your own satisfaction with things because, you sort of reset what you're putting in and what you can control. And then in the end, there's things that are outside your control.
Yeah.
And if you start putting a lot of value on that, then you're not going to be happy or satisfied. Or
Exactly. And it's like the non-attachment thing we were talking about before, or just being okay with that. Okay, I have to do these certain things. I don't necessarily like them, but they add up to where I have to go with my journey. So they're on the steps of that. There's a lot of subjects. My uni, I study at Griffith Uni, and I'm planning to be a cyberpsychology lecturer and do stuff with them. But they didn't really have anything related to that when I did my 3 years and my honours. And so, there was a lot of subjects I had to do that I'm like, I'm not interested in this. I don't need to know this. I'm interested in being a researcher and a speaker and a consultant and a lecturer. I'm not interested in clinical psychology, which means you're speaking to someone and seeing someone, helping them. Like, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. But a lot of it is geared towards that because especially at the moment, we need a heap more of those clinical psychologists. But I just had to keep reminding myself, this is just one of those bits. This is just one of those steps towards that main goal. And suck it up, like do it. That's all you have to do. It's you complaining about or you getting annoyed at it. It's not going to change because that's part of your curriculum. It's part of what you need to do. Do it, tick it off, move on. The next one hopefully will be better. And that's sort of like my mentality. And I know not everyone's like that, but that's what helps me get through the world.
Yeah, I think putting it out there allows people to come along for the ride, and I think it's sort of these threads of conversation, and the more that the topics are out there, they can weigh up, well, what's my opinion on this, or how can I contribute, and all those things. That's kind of where I'm curious about, is how fast moving is all of this, because I think a lot of people would realize that technology, you've got to consider what's good for you, and just the balance of things. I think that we like to mention balance a lot and see how people are managing the various aspects. Do they have it all in balance? A little bit of this, a little of that, and pleasure and fun, and maybe some serious stuff, a side project, a hustle.
Yeah.
Just curious on a couple things about the entrepreneurial aspect. I'm just curious, did that just come from within over time? Like, I feel like you've got this entrepreneurial, you've actually spoken about that. Is that coming from someplace where you became an entrepreneur, or the mindset of it?
I don't know, actually. I think it came from myself because my parents are quite traditional, need a job, work for society. I think I've always been a bit removed from the mainstream too, and I'm one of those people that's quite okay to speak out about things I disagree with, whether or not that's the norm, the social norm. So I think maybe that it's more related to that, to be honest, because a lot of people wouldn't quit jobs if they knew they didn't have another job lined up, or if something wasn't going to be a success. And whereas I've just been, okay, well, I'll give it a go. It either works or it doesn't. Like, they're the two options. And so it's not really that bad. And I guess my parents and my family have just come along for the ride and have to support me in ways, oh, this is my project, so that means it's everyone around me's project as well. So that's really good. I have like a great family, and I have great friends as well who are supportive. And I think also it's related to having people around you that are good people too, that you're the sum of the 5 people around you. Like, I love that aspect. So if you're and that's also another thing, that where you work out who you want to put time and energy into, and if it's I'm all for relationships changing and moving on from things that don't work. And it's like I said, cost benefit analysis. And a heap of my friends who are a bit more emotional, they don't understand when I say cost benefit analysis about relationships, where there's like partners or friendships, like they totally freak out. And I'm like, but I'm putting in all this energy and I'm not feeling any joy whatsoever. This person's causing me like annoyance a lot of the times, or, it's just not balanced. There's no balance there anymore. Or I was getting what I needed and now I'm not. And so to me, it's pretty obvious whether or not you make the decision or it's as conscious as that. I think when something's not working, and it's just how much time it takes for you to move on from that, really. That's the trick. But so I think it's knowing those sort of things and being okay with that, and surrounding myself on the other end of that is people who bring me joy, who I have a great time when I'm around them, and we just encourage each other, whatever we're into. Like a lot of my friends have a lot of interests that aren't mine. And the same for me. Like a lot of them don't even understand all the stuff I'm talking about, but we support each other. And that, I think that's really important.
That's that's sort of that beautifully simplistic thing that a lot of people can take away from. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I could see that helping people, honestly.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Just in the frame of mind, and just to kind of keep things fresh, and
definitely, whatever
your situation is, just look past that in that one moment, and it can be positive stuff or maybe a struggle. I mean, I was also curious about like role models and things like that. Maybe a little bit more of a beyond your close five, like you described. Have there always been role models that are out there? Could be in music, could be in anywhere, but
yeah, I guess I've loved, like when I was younger, my role models with music were like independent, like Arnie Zafranco, Dar Williams. They were like women that were like independent, released stuff on their own terms, toured around, was successful without the mainstream support. So I've always liked people that do their own thing on their own and make it successful. So they're the ones I can think of with music. I guess, a lot of, when I first started in the vegan scene, a lot of my friends are older women who also had successful businesses. So I've had a lot of older women who have sort of helped maybe me see how I could be in the future or something like that. So that's been really good. And I think I'm also like open to feedback from people. Like I'm a big fan of constructive criticism, and I know a lot of people aren't, but it helps me because I'm like, okay, cool, that's a different perspective. I haven't seen that. Whether or not you agree with it is another thing. And, sometimes it'll take me a while before I do see it from someone else's perspective, but then that helps. So that being around people who actually tell me the truth and not just like yes people in my life has been really important too. And they're not necessarily people that are still my friends. Some of them I'm thinking of, but at the time they like opened my eyes to certain things that I was like not aware of, or maybe, pretended didn't exist or something. So that was helpful. It's interesting, isn't it,
that you can look back and there was somebody that did give their honest opinion, and they wouldn't necessarily have known that it was somebody giving you straight feedback, but it did have an effect, and they probably don't know that it had an effect. You know, maybe not immediately, but over time. Yeah. So it's kind of neat that.
I guess I try, like, especially because I was so heavily involved in the vegan scene, and then I just stopped everything to study 3 years ago. So I've done a lot of reflection, and I've learned a lot about myself and people because of psychology. So because of that, I have been very reflective with that, and I have understood a lot of things that have happened, or relationships, or trajectories or whatever. So that's been interesting. And I know one of my first year subjects, we had to ask people's opinion. Like, I think I had to give 3 or 5 adjectives about us. And it had to be like negative and positive, but, I wouldn't necessarily use those terms. But something, they really like about you, maybe something that's a bit of a challenge sometimes. And so, most of mine's honest. So I'm very honest. And I don't mean to cause harm to people. Like, I come from things with a, like, nice, like a healthy way of, I think a lot of it's just, trying to find out new stuff, and sometimes that comes across not a very good way. Like, I'm very inquisitive, but sometimes I say it in different ways, or like I'm like, well, it's obvious to me what needs to be fixed and tell people, and sometimes people can't handle that. So honesty is definitely my positive and my negative, and I've definitely turned that down a lot over the years. And it's like working out people that can handle certain things and maybe people that can't. Or like one of my friends from uni, he always says to me, look, I just need you to listen first before you tell me how to fix it. And just having people that know you or you know them that can like give me that stop, because sometimes I need that stop to be in the present and remember who they are and what they need from me before I bring in my own stuff. So yeah, so that's been really cool. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's sort of like that considered approach, and you're just taking all the inputs in. And it sounds like you're a bit of an explorer. We got you. It's fitting. You've got the Explorer Ambitions mug there on the.
Oh yeah.
So we'll label. Okay, there we go. That.
I don't know if you can see that.
The ambitions, yeah. That's a good reminder for people listening, and you can always come in and check the YouTube episodes. But we certainly have really gone in across the topic. I mean, again, we can go so deep with the areas of technology and human psychology and the interface. We've touched on the vegan aspect and that important. But maybe I think it's just worth just briefly taking us through that important part of your life. Is it? Could you just tell us a little bit more about that, and then we'll wrap up with what you're working on in the next.
So, like, why I got into it, or what?
Yeah, it's just what role did that play in your life? Was it a health or a health decision, or a feeling, or something you were introduced to? Like you said, there was some people that you learned from, and then you just said, this is right for me. I just think, and you said there's the trendy aspect. I think we were just chatting about this earlier, where people would be tagging themselves on Instagram and I'm in vegan lifestyle and all that, but it's like, are they living? Are they living it fully, or is it more on trend? That kind of angle as well.
Well, originally there was not many people who even knew what veganism was. So I'm talking 97 is when I first became vegan, and I was vegetarian a couple of years before that when I was at high school. So when I finished school, I became vegan, and I became vegetarian first because we used to have this leg of lamb for Saturday night meals, like a roast leg of lamb. And there's a part my sister and I liked of it. And I said to my mum, what part of the leg is it? Because it's called leg of lamb. So I knew it was someone's leg. She said, it's the Achilles tendon. And I looked down and I'm like, I've got an Achilles tendon too. Wow. Okay. And that was like I'm eating something or someone that used to be alive. And I didn't eat any red meat after that. We went on a 1-month camp at my school, and we looked after chickens. So then I didn't eat chickens after that. It was just a gradual sort of transition into veganism over a couple of years. And then, I went vegan beginning in 97. And then, this was no internet, or not much of the internet. My website, vivalavegan.net, was one of the first vegan lifestyle blogs and websites in Australia. There wasn't much at all. And like I said, because of my backgrounds in performing, I was asked to speak at a lot of events, and I was going interstate because most of my friends were Sydney, Melbourne people. There wasn't many vegans here. And so, I was meeting lots of people interstate, and just, we had a community. Like it was actually a really amazing community. Everyone was supporting each other. Yeah, there's always the weird ones in any community, but everyone was supportive. There wasn't much judgment around. It was just really cool. You were part of a movement. It's like, I sort of am with the tech stuff at the moment. You're part of that movement to try and educate people to help, animals and to make the world a better place, And so that was great there for a while. And then, it just became, Leigh-Chantelle vegan spokesperson. That was me for like 20 years. And I was not making conscious decisions of those things. People would ask me to speak. Yeah, cool. I'll be there. Easy. That's what I do. And then I realized I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And this was just before I started studying. And it was the same thing. And it's sort of changed since about 2010, 2015, where, Instagram came along. There's a lot more what I would call superficial aspects to the movement, like, hashtag vegan and just showing boobs, butts and abs online. That gets the interaction, that gets all the likes and the shares because, it's a person. People prefer, like from a marketing perspective, people prefer a face or a body rather than just, a product. So that's like, marketing 101. But what's come from it? And there's a lot of people that are making money from the scene now, which, people should be able to make money, not a problem. But they're doing it in maybe unethical ways, or there's a lot of places that are just adding the vegan logo onto things or the vegan thing, but they're not ethically minded in any shape of, in any sense of the word. So I guess the movement's a lot different now, and it's a lot more sort of about a person rather than about the ethics or the movement. So it's become so-and-so has said so-and-so, and a lot of people can't handle constructive criticism, like, should you be posting these sort of things? What are you actually doing? Why are you just posting selfies all the time? Are you donating to any animal sanctuaries? Are you helping animal sanctuaries? Or are you just trying to get people to like your photos of food? There's a lot of questions that need to be asked, in particular by some of the people that are now seen as the sort of front runners of stuff. So I was like the vegan veteran for many years, and I've moved away from that now. So it's interesting, especially seeing things from afar because I'm not immersed in it. So it's it's been very interesting the past 3 years to see the movement from afar, and we've still got a long way to go. And, it's like any movement, in particular, like political stuff, we all need to work together and just get over the fact that, that person doesn't do this in the way I would do it, or this person doesn't do that. It's more, focusing on the things that you have in common rather than the things that separate you. And I just think that's just generally, like, I try to have, like, I've got lots of friends who are different, like, not just vegan people, not just people that care about tech, not just people who care about AFL, or, there's lots of different people I have in my life that are good and interesting and from all over the world, different cultures, different nationalities, different upbringings, and they remind you that there's other ways to look at the world. And that, I think, is really essential with the technology aspects and the digital aspects at the moment, because we're just seeing a filtered version of what you already agree with. So you're seeing that because that keeps you on those platforms. So I hope people can understand that and try and move beyond it, and to try and meet different people that disagree with them. It's okay to disagree with people, but in a constructive sort of way, and try and learn why do you think that? Why, because I think this, and I can see how you could get to this, but I don't understand that part. I think that's really very necessary to do now.
That's a neat little way you looped back, and it's so true in the sense that no matter what the topic is, veganism, or, there's going to be people that are passionate, but if you sort of choose your tribe, the way the algorithms are, you're pretty much going to be in this echo chamber of like people that love what you're doing, but nobody's going to be your critic. You're probably not going to be challenged on anything, and people will say that's probably not a good thing.
No, and I've seen, like, quite a few of my friends have become, famous in certain worlds, and how that changes them. And some of them are okay with taking feedback, and because maybe it's from me, or because I'm quite, hey, shut up and listen to me for a moment. But some of them are not, and that's changed over time just based on who they hang around with. And this is also, when people say, oh, my friend, and they're just friends with them on Facebook. They're not someone they could call up, and when they have to chat about something like really heavy. And I feel that a lot of people are putting way too much attention on maintaining a profile online and maintaining those supposed connections online, and they're forgetting all the in-person stuff, which is what really is needed at the moment, especially with COVID.
That's neat. Yeah. Well, geez, you've just given us another topic, which is like celebrity and that whole, what is that bad for people? And anyway, we'll leave that for another time. But Yeah, really, really great. I think if we can just cover some of the things that are ahead of you, I think in the event space, there's some things happening on the topic.
Yeah, so there's a Data Science Week, which is coming up in May, the 10th to the 14th, and I'm giving a talk somewhere. I think it'll be an online seminar. I think that's going to be the easiest way for most people. And I'm going to talk about how your data is used against you, one of my favorite topics. So have a look at that. And I also brought in this new book that I'm featured in. So a guy called Jeff Ebbs has written this eco book published by Australian Geographic, and there's a bit on putting down the phone, and there's a bit in it about vegans too, including me. So yeah, if you want to find that at most of the bookstores, and at yourlifeyourplanet.com, I think is the website. And yeah, that's got like really cool tips about environmental, how to help environmental stuff.
That's fantastic. Yeah. No, so guys, jump on the YouTube channel just to check that. The visuals on that, you'll recognize the cover. It's got Australian Geographic, for those aren't that aware. I mean, overseas, US and Canada, they would know National Geographic, but Australian Geographic's well established here for lots of big movements and lots of big ideas. So yeah, really, really great. Look, Leigh-Chantelle, thank you very much for coming on, sharing that topic.
Thank you, Scott.
We'll open it up for comments, and guys, people treat this as a conversation starter and consider what you're working on today. So thank you again.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. Thanks for your attention.
All right. Bye, guys.